offering that we've put together with our partner, City First Enterprises, and we look forward to this partnership and getting this new offer into the market. And I'll tee it up a little bit, and then going to turn it over to Oswaldo and Steve. But on the webinar here, we're joined by several of the members of the team that put this together. As I mentioned, we've got Oswaldo Acosta on here, the Executive Director for City First Enterprises. We've got Steve Morrell, who you were just hearing from, who's the Chief Investment Officer at the Montgomery County Green Bank. And then you'll also hear from Scott Dickey, who's a consultant that the Green Bank has brought on board to help support our engagement with the contractor community and get the product into the marketplace. So before we get into the product, I just give you a feel for how this came about. We started this conversation with City First Enterprises back in April as we were out talking to the contractor and business community out there to understand what might be emerging needs that the community might have coming off the fact that the COVID-19 had hit and businesses were having to respond to that and think about their properties and their operations and how they might move forward. And so we were trying to identify whether there was a gap in the marketplace that we could provide some financing, and that's the job of the Green Bank, to identify financing gaps and try to fill them. And we were hearing from a lot of the small businesses that might have small financing needs, that they are facing cash constraints in order to sort of undertake work that they might have been looking at. And they were also needing to see flexible payment schedules, flexible approaches to think about the repayments to help them bridge through the period of trying to get back online. And then the other thing we recognized is that businesses at this point were looking at energy efficiency as a opportunity to bring in reduce operating budgets and bring in some of that savings. But we also recognized and heard that these properties were having to think about systems that they had and how they might need to address those to address the need of health improvement in those properties to bring them back on board. So with that in mind, we developed this product with City First Enterprises that we're calling the Small Business Energy Savings Support Program, which is really intended to help the businesses in this period to get to that reopening, to address operating budget constraints they may have and use energy efficiency as a way to get there. Also think about it, having to address systems to bring the properties up to sort of an environment that they feel is healthy and safe for both working and occupying. And so that's the opportunity that we're bringing to you here, and that we'll go forward in. So Steve, if you go to the next slide. So, on the agenda today, we'll briefly talk about who we are, both Montgomery County Green Bank and City First Enterprises. And then we're going to turn it over and really drive into the details about what the program is, what it's about, what are its terms, how we're entering the market with it, and certainly leaving time and an opportunity for you to ask questions, as Steve mentioned, along the way, as well as at the end. And then we'll give you that important contact information at the end that you can look to get follow-up information. So next slide. So just in brief, who we are, Montgomery County Green Bank, we're a publicly chartered nonprofit. The county created us back in 2015, and we got stood up in 2016. And we are an independent 501c3 nonprofit, but we were chartered and established by the county. We operate not inside the county, but outside the county. And while bank is in our name, we're not really a green bank. We're a financial intermediary. We use our capital to work with other financial partners to bring a broader set of capital to the market to help energy efficiency, clean energy investments. And in this case, our partner in this endeavor is the City First Enterprises, which we're very happy and pleased to have as part of this team. And so our job is to accelerate investment in the county in clean energy, energy efficiency, renewable energy, in order to address all these things you see on the table: jobs, improve the environment, address health, address resiliency, and more importantly, use our limited amount of capital to bring in a larger set of capital that can support all of this. So our job is to use that capital, bring in partners, find where there are gaps, and bring product to market to fill the gap. And the product we're bringing to market right now is one that we identified as a gap filler. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Oswaldo and let him introduce City First Enterprises.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry. Yes, my name is Oswaldo Acosta. I am the Executive Director of City First Enterprises, My colleague Alejandro Arizaga is also on the webinar, and he is here as well to answer questions or provide his contact information. He's the loan officer working with us on this. So who we are? So we are a loan fund. We are a an alternative lender to mainstream finance. We are part of the City First group of families, a family of organizations rather, based in DC. But we are an independent, long-standing organization, City First Enterprises. We are unrelated to City First Bank, legally speaking. We are a loan fund which mandate is to make loans flexible and patient loans to small business, affordable housing developers, nonprofits, and other enterprises that cannot access to mainstream finance. That's who we are. We're a small group, a group of 7 individuals based in DC. We have a portfolio a little below $20 million. We're growing fast. We are growing and expanding both in geography and as well as in categories in line of businesses. A small business and Montgomery County is one of the categories that we're pursuing aggressively. I have a personal interest in being more present in the clean energy space. We have been exploring opportunities. Tom and I and Scott and Steve have been talking about this for literally years. And when COVID-19 hit, of course, we saw an opening and we're trying to be of service to the market. So that's who we are. Everything else, it's pretty clear on the website, on the slide. The only thing that I will close with is that we understand small business finance. We have an ability to move quickly, and I come from a micro lender doing small business loans. We used to do hundreds of them a year, the Latino Economic Development Center. And now at City First, we're new to the business, but the team that I have at City First Enterprises comes from LADC. We have a system and a methodology to get to a yes or to a no fairly quickly. The ability to get to a yes to provide finance, it's enhanced now by virtue of having the Green Bank. Oh, I'm sorry, my kids are yelling in the background. Of course. Our ability to provide flexible capital, it's enhanced by having the Green Bank. They are coming with their expertise, their deep understanding of green lending and project finance. So we're in a pretty good spot, and now we need to find those clients and projects that need the capital to match the investments that they are pursuing, and that's pretty much it. So hopefully we'll get to talk to some of the people on the line soon and get information about their businesses or their particular projects and respond quickly and fund them. That's pretty much it, Tom.
Great, thank you, Oswaldo. Really appreciate that. I think, like Tom said, that we're very enthusiastic and excited to work with City First Enterprises on this. Oswaldo, as he explained, has great expertise in small business lending, and this is a product that we wanted to get out quick in order to be available in some challenging times. And so, just to run through some of the details of the product itself, that, as Tom mentioned, we're calling the Small Business Energy Savings Support. And really what we're looking at is whether you as a contractor have stalled capital improvement projects of your clients that maybe they put on the back burner, or maybe they have certain capital issues that they're considering behind them, or maybe they're just looking for financing to be able to maximize that effective savings being greater than debt service. So for various reasons, I'm sure your clients are looking at projects on their mechanical systems in different ways, and we wanted to make sure to have a product out there to help with those stalled projects due to the pandemic. The solution that we've come up with is to partner with City First on this product, the Small Business Energy Savings Support. and really provide loans that can cover the capital costs of any energy efficiency retrofits you're making, plus a degree of non-energy systems as well. And certainly as you're looking, as your customers are looking to reopen or to put the investment in to be able to work under the current economy, there are both energy efficiency measures as well as non-energy systems that they're looking to retrofit in order to make sure to be open for customers, or for tenants if they're building owners, just really to be able to welcome people back in. And so this is a financing that we put together to be fairly quickly open to the community. We'll be reevaluating it in January 2021 when terms may change, but of course this is an ever-moving situation in the economy, and so we want to make sure to have that flexibility to evaluate it again in January. Just in terms of what this product offers, this summary chart explains the rates and the terms. We're really looking at small size loans here from 10,000 up to 150,000. We can take a look at $150,000 loans or higher with a special approval. We do have other products that may work better for some of the larger projects. So in here, we kind of think of 150,000 as a bit of a cap. The term is available for relatively quick loans, up to 5-year terms. What we want to do when we look at the term is really think about what the energy savings will be from the measures, and to be able to try and put an amortization together that works for the client, that gives them a cash flow positive scenario. We can look at secured or unsecured loans, rates between 3% and 5%. We do have some fee structures that are fixed based on the size of the loan that we're doing. And we try and be flexible in terms of the repayment options that are out there, that really whatever your customer is going to need, looking at either interest-only payments for the beginning, some kind of payment deferral for a brief time. The name of the game for us with this product was really to try and be as flexible as possible. So a lot of these terms are fairly broad, and we want to be able to work with you and your clients to come up with whatever kind of loan terms will work for them for this project. And so, you know, these are the general terms that we're putting out there. I think as you'll hear, the idea is that we want to make sure to speak with you if you have a potential project that you're working on, or you have customers that have projects that they've deferred, and we can try and think through really how to combine these terms to what makes sense for them. And then in terms of timing, full upfront payment, not dependent on anything else. We're looking to make 100%, cover 100% of project costs upfront. So you as a contractor can get paid upfront, not wait on timing of anything, and on the back end, we'll deal with customers and incentives. In terms of eligibility, we're looking at, of course, providing loans for upgrading energy systems. We do need some kind of clean energy or energy efficiency component that generates cost savings or energy savings benefits, and is really about 70% of the use of proceeds of that loan that we're looking at. Of course, there are always going to be ancillary activities associated with that, which may constitute up to 30% in non-energy improvements. This is a particular area where I would encourage you to be flexible, and we'll be flexible to the extent that we can. If you have a project where it looks like about 50% of the use of proceeds would go to energy efficiency and the other 50% to non-energy efficiency, let's have a conversation. We want this product to really be out there and available in this challenging time. And so we don't want people to get hung up on one thing or another, but generally, of course, we're looking to fund energy efficiency or clean energy systems. The eligible businesses, I think, is another interesting area that you should note. We are looking at small businesses, but we're defining small businesses in the same way that the Small Business Administration would, which means any business with 500 employees or fewer would qualify. So we can look at energy demand. I think many of you know the classic definition of 60 kW or less in demand. That's something that the utility looks at, and we can take a look at that as well, but we're not necessarily beholden to that. We can take a look at revenues as the SBA defines in terms of what constitutes a small business, or employees. And as I mentioned, that can go up to 500 employees. So it's actually a fairly broad categorization of small business in the same way that the SBA does. And this, I think, gets to one of the points of this product, is that sometimes there's going to be a time that you qualify under the utility definition, and there may be a program under the utility incentives and financing that works for you, which is great, and we encourage that. We actually try and work closely with the utility to push those. And then there are going to be times that doesn't work. And so the small business energy savings support would hopefully fill in with that. Of course, as Tom mentioned, we're based in Montgomery County. All of our projects do need to be in Montgomery County. And we're looking for primarily Pepco customers. We do have some capability to take a look at BG&E, but on a limited basis. So one thing I just wanted to run through that everybody could see, we think that there's a real advantage of using this kind of financing. If you think about the other kinds of options that your customers may be taking a look at, which would be either funding out of their own cash, perhaps if they can access the on-bill utility financing at 0%, or if they're looking at a commercial loan at, say, a higher rate. These are options that in some instances would make more sense, but in some instances we think that we want to make sure that the small business energy savings fills a gap. And this just runs through one such example that you can see if you have a project that, say, for $44,000, that would fit in terms of the sizes that we're taking a look at. If you're financing that yourself and you're looking at energy savings around $950, you're looking at about a 3-year payback on that. And intuitively, of course, you would see the same with 0% utility financing, since you're not paying any interest on that. And you would also see a period of time that you would need to repay on the commercial loan. But really, as we issue loans for the full amount, $44,000, and we take care of the incentives on the back end, we typically ask for them to get assigned, then you're looking at an immediate payback and an immediate benefit. In addition, a fairly low debt service, and as a result, a fairly high monthly positive cash flow after that loan payment. So we think it's an attractive product, even kind of taking a look at some other options out there. And there are certainly times that it makes sense to use those other options, but this is one product that we can be flexible on, and we can take a look at different rates. We can take a look at different terms to really engineer that kind of success that you see in this example. So that was just a quick summary of a lot of the terms. I know we're running through pretty quickly, and we may actually end up going less than the hour, which is good, give you the rest of the day. But a couple things more that we wanted to run through. I'll turn to my colleague Scott in terms of process and how you can kind of market that with your customers.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. So, well, one thing I want to emphasize from what Steve said is, is that don't view what Steve just laid out as hard constraints. They're more guidelines. And as far as the process goes, it's pretty straightforward. Step one is just to reach out to the Green Bank, and we'll have that initial discussion, take a look at your project. We can give you a fairly quick read on, how this program might, may or may not be a fit for it. So that would be the first step. If we review and it looks like it's an eligible project, then great. If you present it to the customer then, and they're interested as well, then the next step on those eligible projects, would be to engage with CFE to initiate the underwriting and loan facilitation process. So this slide contains some information on what's necessary in order to kick things off. Pretty straightforward about the customer. Where's the property located? Who are some key POCs? What's the project about? What's in scope? Is there a properly licensed and Pepco approved contractor on the team? That is a requirement of the program. What does the contractor need? The appropriate licenses and insurance, of course, needs to be registered. We are looking to get some read on the energy impacts. So when you see that, estimate those. We can use manufacturers' cut sheets, other simple tool. This is not supposed to, be some sort of an overestimation and overwork of the energy savings. We're looking for rough order magnitude of what those might be. And then at the back end, a report back to the Green Bank once a project is complete on that final budget, and if there were any tweaks to the energy savings estimate, what those might be. Next slide, Steve. In terms of sales and marketing, then what to look for, how to position this as you're thinking through what your current pipeline looks like and projects. I would say going back the last year that may have stalled out, and especially ones that stalled out due to the pandemic. Where your customer pumped the brakes. So what are some of the things you should look for? Certainly, I see from those registered on the webinar here, we have some lighting contractors, we have some HVAC contractors, and then some comprehensive energy project developers. So for the lighting projects, lighting is definitely eligible, and especially in the case of, say, a lighting customer whose demand exceeds the small business threshold for PEPCO, so north of that 60 kilowatt demand, lighting projects that fall outside of that band and may not qualify for the on-bill financing program, those are great candidates where they might want to take a look at this. If the lighting project has a longer payback. So again, dovetailing with what Steve said before, this has a nice up to 5-year term on it. That can help stretch the repayment. So if the lighting project isn't as economically viable within the 2-year period and it goes longer, than this program is something they should take a look at. If bigger ticket items such as HVAC measures are in the mix as well, energy efficiency appliances, those are some other reasons. Those may boost the principal size and weaken the payback metrics. And therefore, allow for something with a longer life that matches the better aligns with the useful life of the systems that are getting installed. Those can all come into play. For the non-energy measures, property owners and their tenants right now are thinking through a bunch of different issues on how to reopen in those cases where there's something related to resiliency or COVID. There is the allocation through this program that is for those measures. So any capital improvements that are in that bucket, outside the energy efficiency world, but are a necessary component to reopen. That's part of the design of this project. We want to help with those projects as well. And then again, to reiterate Steve's point about the small business customers, this is a pretty broad definition. So it's up to 500 employees, not constrained by the 60 kilowatt demand. That means we can work with a wide variety of customers. Again, if you have any questions, please just pick up the phone, shoot us an email to kick off the discussion, and we'll give you a read on eligibility. So what are some additional scenarios? Cash flow. If your customer is perhaps indicating some pain points, they've got the cash and don't want to spend it, or they don't have the cash and they want to get the project done. That's where this program with a 0% down payment, up to 5-year terms and good looking rates might be a way to help unstick something that may have gone sideways. Say, March and April, your proposal might be sitting on a shelf somewhere. If you give us a call, we can talk to you about the project, potentially equip you with a preliminary term sheet that you could use to then re-engage with your customer and assess whether the capital constraint was the real issue behind the project stopping. And if this might be a part of the solution set now as people are looking to reopen. So a couple other scenarios, if perhaps the customer is not eligible for the on-bill financing program, or if they can't qualify for a traditional loan, let's talk. And I think that about covers it, and we can now transition into the Q&A period. Back to you, Steve.
Great, thank you. It's great to be able to kind of run through this with everybody here, let you know what this tool is that's available that you can present to your customers. As Scott said, we're hoping that this can really help you unstick things that are stuck, and also just be available for new projects as well. So we do have some time left. We appreciate everybody joining very early. Everybody was put on mute when they first joined, but because we have a fairly small group, we can make this fairly informal. And if you have questions, you can just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question. We also have a chat box that you can enter into a question if you would prefer just to write it, and we can answer there. So I will turn it over to anybody that may have a question they want to ask. If anyone is sitting on anything, please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
As an administrative point, Steve, are we going to be circulating around these slides and posting the webinar?
Yes, so we will make sure that everybody who registered, and I see there's a few people who didn't make it on, I know it's early, we will circulate the slides. The webinar has been recorded. We have a recording that we can attach to our contractor newsletter that will go out to most of you already are registered for that. And if you don't see it, then we can make sure it's just available. Otherwise, you can always reach out to us separately. I think that sometimes this spurs thoughts about specific projects that you're thinking about that you don't necessarily want to talk about with the entire group, but you can reach out to us separately. This is our contact information to be available to kind of take a look at projects. Scott, of course, is available anytime to really start thinking about these projects. And if you want to just talk about whether the product is going to be useful for things that you're looking at, as well as some of our other commercial products, whether those are more appropriate choice for what you're looking at. Scott can really be helpful with that. I'm also available anytime. Feel free to reach me by email or my cell phone, just to ask inquiries about qualification, about the types of projects you're looking at. We really want to be open to answer those kinds of questions at any time. So you can always feel free to reach out. So I will open it back up one more time just to see if anyone has any lingering questions, if they want to unmute themselves and ask a question. Otherwise, I think we'll sign off and appreciate everybody's time this morning.
Can I just add, or rather emphasize on one important piece, Steve and team? We're committed to make this process, the underwriting process or the decisioning process, fairly quickly. We understand the time is of the essence, and there are products outside that are pretty much available, or the decision is very quickly. So we're cognizant of that, and we want to assure the applicants that we will be having a decision within a matter of 2, 3, 4, 5 days. It's obviously subject to having all the information we need, but I'm confident that if we get all the documentation, the project financial information, the business documentation, we could get to a decision within 3 days, if not earlier. It's a fairly simple linear process. So that, I think that's important versus other lenders out there that there is a more orthodox way of looking at the information, going to a loan committee, asking more questions, and blah blah blah. We do all those things, and we just compress them and condense them within a matter of 72 hours.
Yes, no, thank you, Oswaldo. That's really helpful. And I think that is important for everybody to keep in mind as you move forward. Certainly if you're working with a client and they have an HVAC system that breaks on them and they can't have customers in, or their employees can't work at the time, we can really work with both emergency measures as well as long-term planning. And we're working to be fairly quick on that. So there's a variety of reasons that people are looking to reopen and kind of recover. And sometimes that's an emergency measure, sometimes that's long-term planning, but we are looking to be fairly quick about that. So with really any inquiry, you have our contact information. You can really call out to the main line anytime. Of course, City First Enterprises is also available, but we'll take a look on our side about eligibility, and we can really help move your projects through. So
Steve?
sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Steve, maybe just could you go back through and reemphasize, that the funding on this, that it funds 100% and, the incentives come in later, just so that there's a clarity that, we're funding 100% of the project proceeds at the front end?
Yeah, no, I think that's an important point, Tom. As we mentioned in the terms, the small business energy savings support is available for 100% financing. So we can really do up to 100%. If there's a certain down payment or an equity portion that you're looking or your customer is looking to put in, that's something that we can consider, but we think it's pretty attractive to be able to have a 100% financing solution. And to that end, we understand that there are some fairly deep and attractive incentives that we should be accessing for a lot of these projects. And sometimes there's a timing issue in terms of getting that. If you're looking at 30, 60, or 90 days to be able to get those payments, you as a contractor are looking to make sure to get your piece on whatever milestone payments you have, or just a lump sum at completion. And so we really wanted to bring that in on the back end for us to deal with the contractors and to deal with the incentives on an assigned basis. So it is an important point that if you're looking at, say, as this example shows, a $44,000 project, you are eligible for a $44,000 loan. And when we close on that, those are the use of proceeds. And those would be available to be able to pay the contractor, to pay you guys as you do the work. And so it really counts as an immediate credit of those utility incentives, as opposed to waiting for that to work. And a lot of the or a handful of the contractors that have signed up and on this webinar and are listening now have been able to manage that kind of timing for quite some time. But others, it's a lot more challenging. It's a working capital issue to be able to manage back-ended incentives. And we wanted to make sure that that's available to cover. And so there is that immediate benefit, as we call out here, and financing available for 100% of the financing.
And the other thing, Steve, I think to stress is that, we're looking to talk to any contractor that's out there that's working with customers in the county and reach out to us. There's not a pre-sign up component to this for the contractors. Just want to reiterate that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Tom. And I think that's an important point for contractors listening, that, this is the name of the game is flexibility here. First step is really contact us. We're not looking for a detailed registration process. We're not going through trainings ahead of time. We just really want to approach whatever deal you have stuck and be able to help with that. And so the name of the game is flexibility on both how we work with you as a contractor, but also the terms of the loan to really be able to make it work for whatever the project is. Any other questions before we sign off?
Not on my end. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. And we're looking forward to this. Oswaldo, thanks for partnering with us on this and getting it in market in such a quick order. We're greatly appreciative of that, and we look forward to working jointly on this and supporting the market. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, look forward to working together with some of the contractors and businesses within the next few weeks. We're ready.
Excellent. Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye. Great day.